Welcome, church family, to this midweek devotional. I'm excited to be sharing with you from Ephesians chapter 4, verses 17 to 24. And to start us off, I want to talk about sports. The collegiate sports season is about to begin. The NFL season is about to begin. Youth sports are beginning. And one of the things that I observe about sports and athletes is coaches. I'm sure you've seen this yourself, that sometimes you have a team that has all the right players, but not the right coach. All of a sudden, there's a coaching change, and the next year, this team will win a championship. It's a story as old as time. And so today, in this midweek devotional, I want to make the comparison of a change that happens in the spiritual life. That there is one thing that has to be changed and transformed by God in order for our spiritual lives to change. Just like in the sports analogy, the coach was what needed to be changed. Well, in our lives, it is our heart and mind needs to be transformed by the Spirit of God. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about that. So we read in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 17 and following. It says, "Now this I say and testify to the Lord, that you must no longer walk as the Gentiles do in the futility of their minds." So we continue reading in this passage, and we discover that Paul is talking about just the mind of people and how sometimes they could be futile. Sometimes there's hardness of heart. We see that in verse 18 and verse 19. We're told that basically people are doing whatever they want according to their will, their way, and their minds. And so Paul wants to tell the people of Ephesus that there is an old way that needs to be let go so that they can live in a new way. But what is the change? What brings about the new way of being? Let's look at the passage again. We look at verse 20. It says, "But that is not the way you learned Christ." So Christ is part of that process of our heart, our minds changing. And so that's why in verses 22 to 24, Paul will say, "To put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness." So it is Jesus and his teachings that we find in the scripture that brings a renewal, as verse 23 says, of the mind. And I include the heart in there. You have to put up the old self and put on the new self. That is the calling that we have. If we're trying to understand the wisdom of God, that needs to happen in our lives. A few months ago, one of our church members was driving by, and I was outside doing yard work. I was mowing. I was wearing jeans that were tore up and old shirts. I was full of dust. I had goggles on. I had ear muffs on, and I was doing yard work. It was quite a sight for this church member commented, "Oh, I've never seen you like this." I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I wear when I do yard work." Well, I don't wear old clothes if I am going to specific events, and in particular when I officiate a wedding or if I am leading a memorial service of someone who passed away. I wear suits. Those are the only times that I wear suits. And so I make sure that I dress appropriate to the occasion to honor the guests, the families, the people that are involved. I bring my quote-unquote, my Sunday best, so to speak, with the suit. Well, in a very similar way, what this scripture is saying is that we need to let the old self or the old clothes be put away, and we need to put on our new selves, to be renewed in our spirits, in the new selves, into the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. So in other words, we are to allow Christ to bring up forth all this goodness and renewal that needs to happen in the mind and in the heart. And so when we do that, we put off the old self and we put on the new self, because that new self only happens through Jesus Christ and his work in our lives and all the good things that he wants to show us. And that, my friends, is the way that we discover God's wisdom. Well, thanks for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you this weekend, church family. God bless, and go in the peace of Christ that passes all understanding.